3, 2.
You're now watching Two Old Farts Making Noises.
Joe, do you know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business. Jeez, every time I hear that, I think I should be like listening to Metallica right after. I love it. So it's like boom, 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 boom. So when this,
yeah,
I know, right? The cool thing is, since this comes out at like 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern time every Saturday,
starts everybody off.
Can you imagine you're driving in the car to go play golf and having a cup of coffee, and you put the podcast on, and it's goes boom, 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 boom. You're like, oh,
they're doing it. They're doing it.
I know, they love it.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Well, happy to see everybody here. How are you, Stephen? And again, in lieu of David, we have John visiting us again. This is great to have
John may end up visiting us on a weekly basis, even when David's here. So maybe 4 of us on your show. So you'll get a whole different array of opinions. Yeah. So
we've got a few different topics today. We've got cannabis, big topic there. We've got antitrust, particularly Microsoft and what's happening in the UK with Activision. And maybe young shoppers wanting to buy counterfeit. But before we get into all of that, we have a big topic on the words that are used in business. The words.
All right, before we do that, we have to plug our sponsor. So.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bendicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bendicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
All right. Can't forget that. That's our sponsor.
Right. So. Especially now that we're in the final stages of editing. So this thing is going to be launching very soon.
Very cool.
I have a team of people working with me on the final edits of this thing, so it's looking really good.
When I used to work for Willy Wonka, we had a team of people. They were Oopa Noopas. They were great. And, candy to us. It was a whole thing. So words. So here's what I want to talk about. Words. All the people that are listening, that if you're a CEO or you're an upper level person, even if you're a customer service rep, words are just words. And here's what I mean by that. We're on a conference call this week, real life situation. And my team is on with another team. And one of the guys on our side said, one of your people we don't like the way he acts when we deal with him. Okay, like, listen, not everybody's going to love you. I'm like, yeah, okay. So the CEO of the company says, what did he do? So he tells him some examples and he says, he kind of acts like a frat boy. Oh, he was offended that we said that one of his employees acted like a frat boy. And this conversation couldn't continue. It was like, oh my God. It was like, you would have thought we said your mother sucks cock on Fifth Avenue, which we probably said too. But we just said that, that you really thought we said something terrible. And so I said, whoa. Stop. Interrupted everybody. And I said, I'm offended that you're offended that you asked one of my people to tell you what he thinks and you don't like the words he uses. I said, put your big boy pants on, and it's too fucking bad for you. If you're a CEO, your job is to, when you say to someone, tell me a story, to listen to the story, not to tell them you're offended or you don't like that they use the words. And they're like, well, we can end the call. I'm like, great, let's end the call. And they're like, no. Like, that's what I thought, pussies. The issue I have is we've become and this guy's just saying in his 40s. Have we really become such a mamby-pamby, pussy, fairy little, this society that if you ask somebody a question and they use a word in business that you don't like, that you're that offended? Is this what the world, now John's my age, John's 7 million years old. Michael's the young kid, he's in his 30s, right? Yeah. So, and if you're older than that, Michael, just shut up. But Michael's in his 30s. So is that the world we are now? Like everyone's offended. It's like that Sandra Bullock Sylvester Stallone movie, when you said a bad word, a ticket came out of the wall.
Yes.
Wesley Snipes was that is what I felt like. And I literally said, I'm just annoyed that you're like telling my person whatever. And then they said something else. He goes, well, maybe someone on your team lied. I go, now you're calling my people liars. I said, so you're offended that we say your guy's a frat boy, but it's okay for you to say that my people lie. I'm like, what the fuck? And then when I said to put your big boy pants on, you thought I literally, like I said, told him that his mother sucks cock, you know, and in Macy's window. And I'm to the point now where I don't really want to deal with it. I mean, I don't mind dealing with
I'm
people.
offended,
I just like to
really,
ruffle their feathers.
By your words.
I don't give a fuck if you're offended,
dirty,
John.
You got that dirty tongue of yours that just kind of.
Can I tell you something? When I was into university, girls were offended by my tongue, but when they were going, they didn't care. Anyway, go ahead right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
But no, but seriously, is that where we are as a society? Are we really at that point where people are that offended if you say, and there was no swearing, frat boy offended him. Are we that much of a bunch of pussies now? That's my question.
Did he explain why he was offended by the
No.
remark?
He's like, you're calling one of my people a frat boy. That was what he was offended by the term frat boy because he's a fucking pussy. And I'm learning, which is really, and at a certain age, or maybe I don't know where he was raised. It seems if you're under the age of, let's say, 45, everything offends you. Everything offends you, right? Everything. If you're over the age of 45, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like people grew up in the office with people using the F word, the C word, this word. Nobody, it's like, it's just a word. And I think the kids under 45 were taught, like, we were taught as kids, sticks and stones break your bones, words will never hurt you. Now they're taught sticks and stones will break your bones. Words will hurt your feelings. Grow up, put a fucking pair of pants on, and become a man. And I have a real problem that we're teaching business leaders to be pussies and to be trigger. Stop with this crap. Like, we're here to make money. We're here to grow a business. If you're offended at everything, how can you start your day? I don't get that. Like, if I was offended every time one of my partners called and talked to me about something, or if I'm dealing with somebody and they yell at me and tell me something, they're like, but okay. Like, let them vent. Well, that's what I said to them. I said, they're venting. You asked the question. So you're not allowed to vent. You're not allowed to say words. So basically, what do you do? That's my whole question on words today.
All right.
Wow.
Juan, you have something to say, I think.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that, look, every generation looks at the one that's coming and doesn't understand how they act. And I think, Steve, you're just voicing that. I don't know what the reasons are why people are so sensitive to particular words or how they interpret them, but somehow they've been taught to listen to specific statements, and I don't know, they sort of take it in as a very personal, I don't know if insult, but
an affront. Somehow they take it as an affront.
Yeah,
an affront, and and even when you confront them and you sort of talk down, try to explain something to them, I don't think they want to change their mind. There's a lot of what you see, it seems today, is that even when you present something with a valid argument and you support it with some kind of data or experience, they don't want to acknowledge that. It seems like in many cases there's a stubborn belief in one's own belief, and not the capacity to take in something else and maybe change if it makes sense. I don't know. That just.
Listen, I've changed over. Yeah, I've changed over the years. Like, I've become much calmer. For people that don't know me, I'm much calmer. I don't use as many F and C words because I don't want to offend the little pussies that are out there. But I will say, Cornell University, and I give the president of Cornell University kudos. The students wanted trigger words before classes and all this crap, and she said no. We're not giving you trigger words. You come to university to learn, to grow, to be uncomfortable. And I was like, finally, this chick has got balls. And I was really happy to hear that. Finally, that somebody had balls.
Stanford Law School took a similar stance when a group of protesters shut down a conservative judge and attempted to actually achieve the shutdown of a conversation because they didn't agree with decisions that the judge had made. And yeah, the head of the dean of diversity actually stood up for the protesters instead of the speaker who was invited to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, and so immediately the next day rectified the situation, put the dean on leave, and made a very clear stance that kind of behavior is not tolerated, and that we are here to have a discussion and to learn, and that just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean you shut them down. And I think that's indicative of some of the sensitivity that comes with whether it's come through education or some sort of increased sensitivity due to social media separating people from discourse. Right. It really, I think part of it points to people who are not willing to expand their minds, not willing to even have the conversation, not right. willing to explore ideas that are different than theirs. And so it creates this, I'm going to draw a line and say, I'm offended. And that's the extent of the conversation. That's the extent of what I'm willing to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, I really missed the 1960s. At least back then, everybody was like open-minded. They wanted to hear it. Now it's like we are literally going back to the 13th century. We might as well just have the Spanish Inquisition, because every day words is the Spanish Inquisition. And I'm just like,
yeah, but
I got off that Zoom.
I think there's a strong, because I think just like the example of Stanford or the example at the other school, there is I think there is a backlash to it, and people are, at least the silent majority is coming to its senses and saying that they need to take a stand against behavior that's illiberal and shuts down speech, that shuts down the ability to just get to know each other.
But that's parents.
Connect.
Yeah, no, but I think
wouldn't that be parents though? Wouldn't the parents have to teach their kids? Like, I see like friends of ours with their kids, and they're like, "Oh, Johnny, this and Johnny." I'm like, Jesus Christ, Johnny's going to grow up to be like a little wuss. He's never going to leave his room. You know, he's going to live in grandma's basement.
A lot of them
don't. I know, but that's my point. When we were kids, go explore, go do. In fact, we had this dialogue last night at the dog park, this guy and I. We're talking about when we were both kids. He's 10, 15 years younger than I am. And we were saying when we were kids, we would ride a bike, you'd skin your knee, you didn't wear a helmet. We climbed on monkey bars that were real monkey bars. If you fell down, you hurt yourself. Not like we have a little rubber mat and we're going to make everything. And no one told us we were special when we came in second. Like, I remember playing Little League Baseball and for the championship of the community, and we came in second. We didn't get a pizza party. We got in the car. My dad looked at me and says, "You'll practice harder for next year." I'm like, perfect. Like, I got it, you know? And now all these kids are like, "Listen, Johnny, you came in 737th out of 700. So you're perfect." No, Johnny, you're a fucking loser. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's how people, you know, young people, children are getting educated at, you know, in school, nursery, and all up to, you know, even into university, right? You know, I mean, if the point that, you know, you were saying, Michael, is there are a few instances, but, you know, I think for the most part, the majority of, you know, colleges and universities are run by people that have a left wing or you know, orientation, and simply can't accept a debate. It becomes an emotional sort of you know, experience for them, and they shut down anything that they don't agree with. And they do. Then maybe they make some corrective action afterwards, but they let the event happen, and it's just you know, I don't know, it's corrosive, right? Until the people, as you say, the silent majority actually reacts, these people are just going to close down everything.
Yeah,
right. Your point, I think you're absolutely right in that it's you could say that it's being run by left-wing or progressive-minded people or left-wing people, but I think it's even worse than that. Is that it's not just people who think in what's traditionally known as the left wing, because there are plenty of left-wing people I know who are willing to have the debate and discussion. But I think it's worse than that. That it's a group of people and a thinking that actually is, there's a book called What's Our Problem by Tim Urban, who did Wait But Why. And he talked about the American challenges that we're facing today. And what he points to thinking that it's not whether you're right wing or left wing or where you are on this x-axis. It's actually where are you in terms of the way you think. Are you willing to be someone who thinks with an open-minded way, or are you more of a, he calls it a primitive-minded, or even worse, just someone who is closed-minded, a zealot about their beliefs, and is not willing to actually have free speech and free discussion and free discourse. So it's a very illiberal way of thinking that's getting into our very liberal, or should be very liberally thinking society.
Yeah, it's really a shame, though. I mean, I would listen to my grandparents and parents speak when I was growing up, and they wouldn't be like, those hippie kids, Mike. They'd be like, yeah, that they make some valid points, blah blah blah. But today it's like you talk to a kid, and all of a sudden it's like, my teacher said that or what the seriously? Like it's like I'm dumbfounded, flabbergasted. It's just literally we're becoming just the biggest bunch of pansy pussies in the world. PS 137 in New York, the kindergarten could take on the whole country and kick their ass. That's how much bunch of pussies I think we are here.
I don't know, but New York is pretty bad too when it comes to.
I know they're getting pretty pathetic as well too.
The private schools there.
Yeah, I mean, New York City is, you know, it just.
They need to go back to the whatchamacallit.
They keep bringing
the 13th century,
trying to bring different rules there in New York City, which you know, when you read them, you think, "Are you serious?" You know, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's and the question is there an answer for it? Well, I don't know what it is, but I do take some solace in thinking that that there is. I do believe that there's a silent majority of people who look at that behavior of shutting down speech and shutting down people because you disagree, because you don't want to hear it, because you're offended. I think there's a lot of people who find that behavior to be unacceptable.
Yeah.
Are we going to rise up more and stand against this kind of behavior? Maybe.
Yes, we are. That's why we have the Two Old Farts Entertainment channel where people can actually say shit that they want.
That's right.
Listen, sermon from the German. We talk about different things, like, you know, whether it's whatever we do. It's not a business thing like this, but we talk about different things. And one of the reasons that these are two mega Instagram guys and YouTube guys with millions of followers, and the reason they like coming on our channel to talk is because they're not talking about whether it's cigars or cars, or we're talking about social issues of the day. And they like that because they said this is literally the only place that they can do that and not be held in judgment while having a cigar or a scotch, you know, while we're doing having social intercourse, if you will. So that's why we do it. All right, enough about that. Let's go into something better that the kids are been loving since the 60s, cannabis.
The cannabis.
The cannabis. Oh, John, put your cannabis away.
Yeah.
So what do we think about this cannabis? So it's Delaware just approved it. It's I think 22 states now. Yeah. I personally,
New Jersey's approved.
New York's approved. I personally don't care. I think it's like if you're gonna smoke cannabis, it's better than drinking and driving. I don't personally care. I'm once again, I smoke cigars and drink scotch, so not when I'm driving, but I'm just like, I don't care if you want to smoke cannabis. I just don't like the smell. So when I smell it, it's just, but I don't go, oh, I'm offended. It's like, all right, I don't like the smell. It's no big deal. I'll walk. It'll go away. Like, you know what I mean? So, but I'm getting impressed that the states are improving it. I know that they use a lot of it for mental health, like they use mushrooms and ayahuasca. They're using it for mental health, for PTSD or whatever.
Yeah.
And people with anxiety and for pain. So now we've done cannabis deals. And what I thought was interesting, I learned more about cannabis than I think people that smoke it, but there's different strains, and you can make cannabis do different things. You can make cannabis make you hungry. You can make cannabis, like if you have pain in your leg, they can do all this. So I was fascinated by all of that. So I'm okay with it being legalized. And I think the government should let the banks take the money because, right now they're keeping it under my bed in a mattress. So.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, there's a lot of red tape, when you want to open, and as you probably well know, that it's they legalize it, and then the bureaucracy that has to implement the rules. You know, in New York City, I think there's what three or four that are licensed. Are you kidding me? You know, it's just I think a lot of the businesses that started, now a lot of them have gone closed, consolidated because of the cost of running one of these stores, or even if you are just a producer, is they put a lot of rules that make it extremely expensive, and so that's why a lot of they don't capture the entire market, because the legal market doesn't have that and can sell the stuff cheaper, right? Yeah. And then you got the issue of, well, everything has to stay within the state, because at the federal level, it's illegal. So if you have if you're growing it in California and you want to sell it in Arizona, you're crossing state lines, and so you're right. You're breaking the federal law. So I wish they would, in Congress, become less, I don't know, conservative in their way of thinking and just legalize it. It's classified as the same type of drug as heroin. Come on. It's just
which is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Well, just the people in Missouri spent this year $230 million on cannabis.
Yeah.
And really, you're in the show me state.
On track for $1 billion a year, they say.
There you go.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, what's the big deal? You let kids drink beer and hard alcohol. You let like the cigarette, because cannabis doesn't have a good lobby like tobacco.
Right.
And so, like a cigar is pure tobacco, a cigarette's just chopped up chemicals. So it's like a cigar and cannabis really are the same thing. It's Mother Nature. Like all you do with a cigar is you're rolling it, and it's just you're smoking a leaf. And all you're doing with cannabis, if it's pure, right, is you're just smoking the leaf, for lack of a better term. So I don't understand why we're not legalizing. It's not like we're legalizing cocaine and heroin and LSD and all this other stuff, but states are experimenting with that. Like states are like, wait a second, we can do this under a controlled environment. They're almost like becoming Amsterdam. It's like,
there's certain
pick
things
the cafe and your drug of choice.
You could argue that some of the psychedelics and those kinds of drugs are being used, as you said, experimentally for PTSD and mental health, and that's a good way in for some of those things. But I hope that I'm certainly pro legalization at the federal level as well, because people are doing it anyway, and so as well do it in a way that is safe and controlled, and actually does it in a way that doesn't put people unnecessarily in jail, which is what these drug laws originally did anyway, and that was a lot of the intention of it. But the point is, there still needs to be some. I hope that this actually spawns more discussion to say that young minds, in particular, people who are under 25, I mean, their brains are not fully developed scientifically, and cannabis is known to have some very serious negative effects on brain development, especially in the quantities of THC that the new strains have, because this isn't the marijuana from 1970 where it was like 1 or 2%. Now we're talking about, in San Francisco, it was very easy when I lived there to get 18, 20, 25% THC in a blunt, in a joint. Right. So,
but you have to see, and here's what's interesting. I have never tried a drug other than scotch and cigars. And I mean, like I tell people that and they're shocked, right? I've never tried cannabis or marijuana, whatever you want to call it. Never tried anything. So I don't get, like, so my friends that that will smoke something, I say, like, some scotch is X% alcohol content and the other is this percent. So like 1 dram of X makes you feel good, and this one makes you feel like everybody. So he says that's the difference when you're talking about THC. 2% to 18% is like 2 hits, and you're like pink elephants see me type of thing. So it's one of those type of things. So,
but you
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
That kind of smart discussion about it when you legalize it and you get it out there and you don't demonize it, and you actually have people really talking about it. So
yeah, I agree. All right, boys, hold on 1 second. Here's something exciting.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bendicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bendicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club. All right.
So so the next thing is we're going to talk about antitrust or counterfeits, which is almost the same.
Yeah. You want
antitrust? It is.
Antitrust.
Let's do antitrust.
Yeah. Antitrust. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah. Microsoft getting nixed on their merger with Activision in the UK, and then they started complaining that, you know, I just crack up because you know, all the let's call it the big 10 tech companies, you know, they have the size now to just buy everybody out and blow the competition out. There's no competition for them talking that it's better to go and do business in the European Union. They're a joke. You know, they're a bunch of hypocrites. You know, if I would break them up with, you know, because at this point they just stifle there's no competition for these guys. You can't break them. As soon as you,
well, you're going to claim the Sherman Act now for antitrust.
Yeah, I say, you know, Alphabet, you know, or at least put a lot of restrictions on. Don't let them buy anything else, because they bought, you know, they bought Instagram, you know, WhatsApp, you know,
different
Skype.
areas.
Yeah.
It's like Apple being in the phone business and the music business and now the movie business.
Yeah.
No, Apple's in banking now. There was a mega article in the Financial Times talking.
Yeah.
Apple is like because Apple got together with Goldman and came up with their credit card.
Right.
Then they came up with a bank, and banks like Bank of America and JP Morgan and whatever, like Apple goes, we're not a bank. And Jamie Dimon's like, if you take money, if you pay interest, if you have credit, went through this list, he goes, you're a bank. So Apple now is becoming a bank. And they said that in the beginning, like nobody was getting the Apple card or whatever. And now, if I'm not mistaken, 50% of the people who have an iPhone now have an Apple credit card and an Apple bank account. So Apple is literally just making everything like you never.
4%, I heard.
Yeah, that's like, well, you got 17 trillion in the bank. I mean, what's 4%? Like, it's not a big deal, you know? So, but they're another one. I think you're going to see antitrust. The problem is, to John's point, everybody's got trillions of dollars and there's not enough things to buy. Like, I mean, I guess you can go buy the moon or Pluto or whatever, but at some point you run out of things. That what are you going to do? You have to consolidate. So you start do. But the AT&T did this 100 years ago, and they break up to the baby bells, and then 20 years later, AT&T owns everything again for them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the same kind of thing. I think it's going to be. I think it'll be interesting to see Microsoft. You know, I don't know. It's just when Europe said no, I just started to laugh. I'm just like, okay, you're not going to.
Yeah, it was the UK, right? You know,
yeah.
That's Europe, by the way. That's the UK.
Yeah, I know, but the European Union has to approve. You know, it's a different entity.
Not for this, they did.
You do remember Brexit?
The United States does the same thing. Yeah, Brexit. The UK left that because they're very smart people. And in the United States, the DOJ and the Secretary of Commerce, they all have to approve certain M&A deals as well.
Yeah, but you know, we know that it's a. You know, let's call it for what it is. We don't have capitalism in the U.S. We have corporate state. You know, it's it's a small little world, and it's a little nice cozy world. You go and work for government. You do regulations, then you go back to the mothership or one of the motherships, and you make a gazillion bucks. So you know what was it? The FTC, the one that regulates.
Federal Trade Commission?
You know, in the last 20 years, they say, oh yeah, we're reviewing, and okay, rubber stamp, you're good. You know, and nothing really happens. I think, you know, we have to put people there that are going to actually look at stuff and say no.
John, that's crazy talk. You want the government to actually do stuff? Stop it. Stop it, John.
I know.
That's crazy.
I'm just a naive boy. You know,
it's really high. I mean, the cost of our government's current inaction and current excessive connection to the corporate world and kowtowing in a way to massive corporate enterprises is problematic, because it actually is a divergence from truly free market capitalism, which arguably was never really there, but but it's very extreme now. It's very extreme.
Yeah. Right.
It's just
everything. The problem is everything's extreme now. You know what I mean? It's like we talk about words or everything back in the 60s, 70s, and in the 80s, it was sort of, you had some sort of X. And in the 90s, you felt little less and less and less. And in the 2000s, indefinitely, it gets, I think, less and less and less. It really is George Orwell's 1984. It just took an extra 40 years for it
with
to happen.
A little bit of Brave New World thrown in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, the antitrust is going to, I think, be interesting. I think it's going to be a lot more. I read the article today that Google's Alphabet with whatever their AI is, they want to merge and do this. And I'm just like, they're going to like just do it's just going to be a mess. It'll be interesting to see. And then there was an article also in the FT this morning, which I thought was hysterical. The guy was saying that we invented AI. And he says AI is in our own image. And he talks about his AI taking him on the map for a ride. And he said the quickest route would have been through the city, but my AI decided I need to go to the country. And so it's what should have been a 20-minute ride became like a 2-hour tour. And he said, no, remember, we have designed AI in our own image. So I just laughed. It was just funny to read. It's like, you do this, you do that. It was just very interesting. That was a good point that I never really thought of. That. Yeah, we designed that. So,
absolutely. But,
and for one of the two final, go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say, when you Google, for instance, is a good example of why, you shouldn't allow them to buy other quasi competitors or something that could be competition to their monopoly, because there hasn't been they spent billions on doing all sorts of stuff, and nothing has come out that has actually been a new product, a new service that actually makes money for them. And instead of they should just concentrate on what they've been good at, and give the money back to their shareholders and stop mucking around, because they don't seem to be able to.
John's a shareholder, so that's
I'm not a shareholder of Google. But the same with Microsoft. Come on, if you can't really just either reinvest in your own business and then give back to shareholders, right?
That's the old school. Now they don't do that.
That is old school.
That's like, let's pay the
CEO. Growth at all costs now, even through acquisition.
Yeah, that goes back to my, I forget the guy at Harvard that said, "Oh yeah, let's align management with shareholders and give them shares." And we started this whole thing where now management, is richer than the shareholders.
Yeah.
And that's what now CEOs are getting bonuses of 5, 10, 15, 100 million, and shareholders are like, no, you shouldn't get that much. And they're like, look what I did. And they're like, but why? If I'm offended that I didn't grow up, like it's like it shouldn't. I think you should be rewarded, but there's also enough. Enough.
You have to be rewarded, but there's excess going on.
Right. I mean, like, do you need $200 million bonus? Probably not.
No,
you know what I mean? If you get a $50 million bonus, you're okay.
There's no revolt in the streets.
Yeah.
Not yet. Keep it up. There will be.
Yeah, but if you're going to pay somebody that much, when you actually screw up,
fire him.
Give it back. Take it away. But that doesn't happen. You see, because the boards are, just as
pussies.
Yeah.
I'll help you out, John. I'll get the tough words out for you.
Yeah.
So on that happy note,
anyway,
let's talk about shopping and counterfeits. There's an article in the FT that I sent to you guys. You can tell we get all our stories from the FT or the Economist. But there was an article in about the younger generation has no problem buying counterfeit items and walking around with them like they're the real thing.
Yeah.
But it's even more, and it takes it even one step further. They're now proud of it. They're showing it. They're proud of they call it dupes.
Yep.
Dupes.
For replicas.
Yeah.
And they're proud of it because the influencers who are promoting this are saying that it's just smart to do this because the quality is similar, actually.
Yep.
And you're not spending $10,000 on a purse.
All right.
Right. Now, I don't think
interesting shift in mindset.
I don't think Hermes would agree with you, or Bergen, or whoever has this $500,000 purse that, the quality is the same.
Yeah.
Just a little Asian lady at a sewing machine or a big factory knocking off 10,000 bags a day compared to, I read an article that I think the Birkenstock or whatever bag, that it's like 70 hours it takes to hand make one of these bags, and the finest leather and the finest material. So we were in the schmata business at one point, and we did handbags, and we would make bags for Camus, and which is alligator and ostrich, and we would do all this, and I would watch our artisan do the work, and we would charge $2,000 to $25,000, and I was like, okay, like I could see it. But then if you're going to do the knockoffs that you go to Canal Street on, right? That's just sort of like, so for $50, if you can negotiate really well, because they'll be like, no, $250 for the fake Louis Vuitton, and for like, you go, I'll give you $25. The guy's like, oh, okay. But it's like, if really, unless you know Louis Vuitton, or you see the colors a little off, you don't know that it's a knockoff. I mean, like, their knockoffs are getting so much better.
All right, here's the thing.
They used to be.
If I see somebody, call me, whatever you want to call me, but all right, I'm not going to totally describe it, but I see somebody in sneakers and, and leggings and you can assess a little bit, and you have a Louis Vuitton. I'm thinking, okay, knock off, because you can't afford that stuff in the first place.
And here's why. You go down to Palm Beach, Florida, or you go down to Palm Beach, Boca, Miami, it's all you'll see. And you'll see these girls with the $500,000 purses with their sneakers and leggings and whatnot. It doesn't look like they can afford a cup of coffee.
Right? But there's a lot of people that you can assess, you can size up and realize, no, if you're coming out of a little, dinky office or some, or your Dunkin' Donuts or something like that.
I disagree with that, John. I'm telling you,
it's
people
hard to
with
know.
money.
Hard to know.
Yeah, I don't.
But I think
not anymore.
Isn't it really about? I think it's really about. There are people who are taking pride in counterfeits. I'm not sure that's something that you should be taking pride in.
No,
because it shows a lack of creativity, actually, and it's also just saying I can't. Isn't it a reminder that you can't have the real thing? I don't know. Why don't you just wait until you get the real thing?
It's also to me a reflection of you're personally, you're a very insecure person because you need, a certain reinforcement that you're worth something, and you're worth something, and it's attached to a good that represents a lot of value, but you can't afford it. But no, I can get a knockoff, and I get the same. People will say, "Oh, you got a Louis Vuitton," so it's this. It's this
but John,
insecurity.
to what Michael just said.
Yeah,
the influencer says to you, because kids watch influencers. Why listen to your parents or read the newspaper? Because that would mean you have a brain cell. But an influencer says this is okay, that this isn't a Mont Blanc, right? It's a fake Mont Blanc. So a Mont Blanc's going to cost you $1,000. You can get this fake Mont Blanc. The kids don't use pens because they don't know how to write, but if they did, for 20 cents. And the kids are like, ooh, so influencer has 17 million followers, so I should get something. Oh my God. Now, they don't realize the influencer is getting a shitload of money because you're stupid enough to buy it, and you're buying it. So I think the context really is that, listen, I don't care if somebody has a knockoff or not. I don't really do. Whatever floats your boat. What I do care about is that the people today don't have their own independent thought, and they need an influencer or some ridiculous BS to tell them that they should like something. Like, if I like something, I'm like, okay, I want to get it. If it looks nice on me, or I think it looks nice on the wall, whatever it is. But these kids are doing it because they don't know. I'm sure they know Louis Vuitton, or they may know, these other brands, but they don't really know the brands. Right? Yeah, they just know of the brand.
They don't know that discernment is what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like these are houses. When you say, I said to someone once, we're going to go to the house of Oscar de Loren, and they looked at me like, what, he has a house? I'm like, no, that means you're going to his showroom. It's called a house. They don't understand it. They just know they were told to buy it. Mm-hmm. So it's, and I think that's the problem, is that, as they want to change history books and change books and do that, if you don't understand the history, that's a whole other show. Yeah, I know. We did that. We did that sermon from the German. Yeah.
Look,
but I'm just saying, if you don't understand all that, that's it. I know. That's why we have sermon for the German.
The history books. That's
which we do, and now we're changing regular books too. But I don't want to get into that. So anyway, I personally don't care if you wear a counterfeit Louis Vuitton, you wear a counterfeit Gucci. You know what I mean? And some of the counterfeiters do it fun because they purposely make a mistake, or they'll call it something else, and it's just a goof. And if that's what the kids want to do, great. I mean, like if that's your individuality, which really isn't,
you have to imitate some famous person, and you want to look like them, then okay. But it's actually it's more insidious because then you're sort of teaching. Well, you can cheat the system, right? It's okay to lie a little bit here, and so you get into this culture of that you can shortchange things.
I mean, there's a large Asian country that I think of where it's completely full of counterfeits. I used to live there.
You're talking my favorite country.
It's an insidious problem because it does make you. It creates a culture of devaluing true craftsmanship, true creativity, true innovation.
Yeah,
and it makes it okay to. Basically,
but if you think about it, if you go to London and you go to you get a bespoke suit, right, and the row, and then you go to I don't care if you even go to Neiman Marcus and I go get a Canali suit, right? It's basically a knockoff, right? Because it's still being made the same way as a knockoff. If you want to look at it in that respect, right? So you're getting knockoffs every day, from Timex to this to that. They're not, PJ. They're not this and that.
You're not going to Macy's and taking off the rack a suit that says Savile Row, I mean, come on.
No, that's very true. That's true. But it is, but technically though, theoretically, these guys did this. So, all right, boys, you know what time it is now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Lost and Found.
If you like the Lost Dollar Business Club, you should subscribe. If you like it that much, you should also tell a friend of yours. So you should subscribe and like. Also, you should put comments below so we know what you're thinking. Tell us what shows you want to hear. Just help us make it better.
So who's lost $1 this week? And who's found $1 this week?
All right.
I really got to get those sound effects from David's out of town. I'm going to use those all the time.
That's pretty good.
David be back next week? Is he coming back?
David will be back. Actually, Monday, we have a special show. We have a show today we're going to do, which is today's the 28th of April. We're doing a show with Noosh today, and a show on the 1st, which is Monday with Noosh, a special show. And then David is back on Monday, and we've got, I keep calling it sexual intercourse, but we're going to call a show social intercourse with Rachel. And so they're going to discuss dating issues that people have in general, things that are going on in the world. So that'll be a fun show. That'll be every Tuesday at noon Eastern time, starting on the 9th. So we have new shows there. We have another show. I can't remember, cigars and something, which is very cool. We've got our old shows. We've got some new people coming on. So so we'll have about 15 or 20 new shows for the month. Yes, it is our Two Old Farts Empire. Now, to the Lost and Found.
Lost and Found.
This is what I saw this morning, and I thought this to me is a found dollar. Tesla's rival, BYD, profits soar more than 400% in the first quarter. It's an electric car company out of China, and their cars look beautiful, and they're literally taking the EV market by storm. So to me, that is a found dollar. Congrats to them.
Okay.
Yeah, congrats to them.
Yeah. All right, so I was going to say who's lost. I should have said it last week, but Fox definitely. 800 million, fine. Who knows how much more they're going to lose, right? And then they go and fire, Tucker Carlson, and that's.
Was that a loss though? Was that a loss?
Yeah.
Well, their stock price.
Yeah, I mean, the advertisers are going to go down because they've lost at least temporarily hell of a lot of millions of viewers. And revenue that people have signed up for, the Fox streaming service. So I think they're a big loser there. Yeah, that's a loss.
Michael, what's your winner lose?
We need that sound.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got a loss and a fan. I have to say both, because I'll start with the loss, because Snapchat launched an AI that apparently was very poorly received, thankfully, because it apparently appears like it's it appears as a persistent friend of yours that you can chat with, and people are not happy with it. And so people are leaving 1-star reviews for Snapchat. So maybe it's a backfiring situation.
Nice. So is that a win or a lose?
That's a loss. Snapchat.
Okay. What's a win?
Well, I think it's a win for sanity. So.
Okay. I like it. I think it's a win. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's very good.
Well, guys.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say this has been great. John, hopefully you'll be back next week. David will be back next week, everybody, for the people that like the Brit. We want to thank everybody for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Also, down below, leave some comments if you want us to discuss a subject, or you know an expert that you want to come on the show. We would love that. And, comment on John, because we do when off the air. But once again, thank you so much. Remember, Lost Dollar Club. Business Club is every Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern time, or 6 a.m. Eastern time, depending on which button we click. But it's every Saturday morning. Michael and the crew are here. So guys, thank you so much for listening or watching, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe and like. It helps the channel out.
Ciao,
everybody.